Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class this morning. Oh, microphone's just a little bit hot. Let me turn that down a bit there. Uh, Welcome to the very first live stream for this semester. For those of you who are joining me live, thank you for joining me. For those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording today. So right off the jump here, let me just tell you just again who I am and then why we do these live classes in this sort of format. And then we'll get into some of the things that I want us to talk about today. We are still in that begin here sort of section. So we'll just kind of be talking about the expectations for the class and different things going forward. But I'm Mr. Ramsey. I'm your instructor this semester for CTI 110-401. That is Web Programming and Database Foundations. So the goal of this course is essentially just to kind of give you just a little peek inside of essentially all of the classes that we teach in the Information Technology Programming and Web Development degree. So we look at a little bit of web, a little bit of programming, a little bit of databases, a little bit of several different programming languages as we kind of progress through the course. So there's a lot of stuff that we do in here, and it kind of moves relatively quickly from one thing to the next. You know, there's a lot of different topics, a lot of different things to discuss. So we'll be covering a lot of different types of material this semester. And here at the college, I primarily teach in this department. You'll find me teaching one or two courses outside of the programming and web development track of the IT degree. But it's primarily in this particular track. So I know the majority of you, might not be programming and web track students. This class is a mixture of all three of the IT tracks, the security track, the networking track, and the programming track, plus some other people who are just kind of in the course trying it out, seeing if they like the stuff that we're doing in here. And I think this is a good opportunity for you to do that as well. So that's really great. And I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you this semester. As we go into this idea of the live streaming, what I like to do is I like to kind of give you guys something that is specifically for you, right? So this is part of the class. I am covering class material or in these live streams, right? And I'm going to do things new and unique and different specifically for you all, because I think that's a good thing to have, right? Like every class gets something unique, gets their own lectures, gets their own demonstrations, gets their own this and that. And even if I do the same course 100 times, each class should have something unique because you've, you're putting in your time, you've paid your money, you want something that's for you. And so that's my goal. That's part of what I'm here to do. And so that's one of the reasons why I have these live streams. So I can cover this content and I can talk about these things and give you something unique. Another big opportunity is to give you the option for interaction. If you can attend live with me, this is really where that comes in, right? Like I do this through YouTube, right? Because I feel like it's one of those things where a lot of people are kind of familiar with YouTube. They're comfortable with YouTube. They know what's going on here. In 2021, like YouTube is typically the first place where people go for their educational needs anyway. If they want to learn, if they want to figure out how to learn something or figure out how to do something rather, they come to YouTube by and large. So why not stream to YouTube? And that's exactly what we're doing. It's something that people are familiar with. It also helps to minimize on those things that you've probably got accustomed to over the last year and a half, right? The idea of, your camera's accidentally on when you didn't want it to be on, or, you're muted when you should be talking, or you're unmuted when you shouldn't be talking. You don't have to worry about that sort of thing with the YouTube streaming back and forth here. It is sort of a one-way production as far as all that goes. Like, my microphone's on, you can see what's on my screen, but you don't have to worry about anything of yours there. You don't have to worry about your mic being on. You don't have to worry about your camera being on. And if you want to ask a question, that's what the chat's for, right? You can just type in your question in the chat. I am monitoring that while I am teaching here. And you should also kind of see it pop up in the stream if everything's working correctly. And, I think that's much lower risk too. Hopefully that'll make you more inclined to ask a question, because, you don't have to raise your hand and be called on and say something out loud in front of the entire class. You just type in your question and I read it and answer it. So that's why I kind of choose YouTube for this platform to do the live streaming. And hopefully you'll get something out of them. Hopefully they'll be beneficial and useful to you as we kind of go throughout the semester. Today's is probably going to be a little bit shorter because we're just going through, some more of the introductory stuff, and I've already done a lot of that through the videos in the course. So a lot of the things that I'm going to say today, you've probably already heard. I'll be calling some extra special attention to certain things as we kind of go throughout today. But today will be shorter than a typical one. I usually like to have these last about an hour. Give or take maybe 5 to 10 minutes, just because it's kind of based on need of what we're doing and things like that. But today we are just going to be looking through the Begin Here section again, just calling out some important things, looking at some things that need to be known, and getting that sort of situated, getting all these expectations and class rules in air quotes. Like, you can't see my fingers here, but I'm making air quotes. In terms of what we'll be looking for throughout the semester. And so I'm here on the main page of Blackboard, and I'm in my eCleveland tab here instead of my regular faculty tab, because it looks more like what you guys see when you log into Blackboard. You've got your courses there in the middle. You've got your student announcements on the left-hand side, which it is a good time to kind of point that out, because, you do have some cool things going on this week, right? Like, there are going to be, food trucks here on campus. There's a little motivational bracelet event going on tomorrow. Lots of welcome back events still going on. So if you're on campus at all for any of your other courses, or you want to make a special trip to campus to come take part of one of these events, you are welcome to do so. Obviously you're a CCC student, and as a CCC student, you get to take advantage of all of the CCC events and everything that's related to the college. Even if you're one of my high school students that are in one of the county high schools that are taking this course, you still get to take advantage of everything that's going on with the college. And so that's good. You need to make sure you're taking advantage of that stuff. But this is CTI 110-401. There it is in my list. And in your list, it'll be kind of displayed similarly. 2021 FA, that's 2021 Fall, CTI 110-401. This is the one where you'd give it a little click to be able to go in there and go into the course. I've kind of looked and I've seen that the majority of you have already found your way, and that's great. I really appreciate that. When you click that link, you go into the course and you land on the announcements page. One of the things that you might have noticed already is that I really like to use the announcements. I think that is an easy way to kind of communicate with everybody quickly. The announcements show up here in Blackboard. You'll also get an email message of them. One of the important things that I like to kind of reiterate, especially since this is an intro first year level course is to make sure that you're always checking your college email. Staying on top of that college email is incredibly important. You know, it's one of the ways that the college communicates with you. It's one of the ways that I communicate with you. So you really want to make sure that you are checking that college email at least once a day, if not more often, right? Just so you make sure that you have the most current information and you know what's going on. That's the best way to do things. But a couple things to just kind of point out. You know, when you get your emails, they won't have the embedded videos in them. Just because it doesn't really work nicely in email to embed a video. However, when I'm done with these live streams, I'll post a recording and it'll be posted as an embedded video. This is where you'd go to watch the recording of one of these live streams or what have you, you know, any of the videos that I add during the semester as kind of a one-off video. We'll be putting the announcements and it'll be a place where you can go to watch it. I'm going to click my button here to go into student preview mode so you can be seeing the exact same, or so I can be seeing the exact same things that you all are seeing. So this looks exactly like what you look at when you log into the course. And one of the things that you'll notice that you might have noticed differently, because my left-hand bar there was more filled out than yours is. This is the very first time we're doing this particular curriculum in CTI 110, so I'm still building it. I'm still working on stuff, and as I get done with modules, I'll be releasing them just so you can have your access to them. But right now we have essentially 5 weeks worth of stuff to do from the Begin Here module to module 4. So that's plenty of stuff to get us started, especially, right? And I should be releasing modules 6 and 7, I believe, within about a week or so. Both of those modules should be out. You know, I'd like to kind of have it done before the end of September. That way we have everything and you can already see your final project and everything that you'll need to do fairly early with a lot of time still left. But, you know, when you get into this stuff, especially when you're in the technology area like we are, this is the kind of thing that you will end up dealing with a lot, right? Because, you know, technology changes, and since technology changes, what we teach about technology has to change as well. So when you're changing that many courses all the time, you know, having everything ready by the time the course starts is a bit of a challenge. But again, we have definitely enough to get us started here. Essentially 5, maybe 6 weeks, depending on how I kind of laid things out. I don't quite remember. But we'll see that in just a second when we get into our Begin Here module. Let's go ahead and click that Begin Here module. And that takes me inside of the Begin Here module. And this is something that you've already seen. If you've watched this Begin Here video, you've seen a lot of this. So we won't spend a ton of time on many of these things. We will talk about some other things that I didn't really cover in that video. But we won't spend a ton of time on this stuff just because I already covered a lot of that in this video right here. So if you haven't watched this video yet, make sure you go back and watch this video. It's going to be important to you as you go forward. But essentially all of the modules are kind of laid out in the same way. They all start out with this same sort of introductory piece here where you have kind of an overview of the module. You have kind of the objectives, the things that you're going to be able to learn or do by the end of the module, and a little table of contents here that just gives you just a little bit about what you're going to be encountering. And one of the things to note is that when they have a little asterisk beside them, that means that activity is graded and you will receive a grade in the course for that activity. So the first thing up that I always have to reiterate again and again and again is the EVA, the Enrollment Verification activity. This is something that is completely easy, right? Like, it's no big deal at all. You go in there, you select yes, and you hit submit, and you're good. Like, it's so simple, but it's also one of the most important things that you'll do in the next few days if you haven't done this yet. In order to stay in this course, you have to do this by September 3rd. Now, keep in mind, the rest of this Begin Here module isn't due until Sunday the 5th. And this is due on Friday the 3rd. So you want to make sure that you do this before September the 3rd, or else when I go to do my verification of my roster, I have to mark that you never attended, and it has to kick you right out. Right? Like, this is crucial that you do this. And, like, if you're watching this and you haven't done it yet, go ahead and do it right now as you're watching this. Just pause the video, come back to it in a bit. Just go do this if you haven't done this yet. Because it is that important. Especially, among you, there might be some people that have never taken a CCC class before, or never taken a CCC class online before. And so this is in all of your online classes, and you're required to do it in all of your online classes just to verify your enrollment, just to say that you're in the course, give you that one thing to do quickly that's going to give you a grade that can reserve your seat for the remainder of the semester. So I can't stress this enough, that you need to be doing this, especially, by the end of the day on September 3rd at the latest. So some of this other stuff I'm not going to go into in detail, like I've already mentioned, but I do want to call attention to this getting started here, especially since a lot of you might be encountering online classes for the first time. This is a good place to go to show you, like you can see the topics here on the right hand side. Where can you find your grades? Where can you, what about the discussion board? What about assignment submissions? How do I submit assignments? How can I communicate with my instructor? How can I get help and support with things? All that sort of stuff. It's located in here. If you've never taken an online course at CCC before, I recommend reading through this. If you've taken a couple and you know all this stuff and it's kind of routine for you, no big deal, right? If you've taken a couple and you don't quite remember some of this stuff, I recommend you reading through this. Right? Like, I try to keep things as simple as possible. Like, if you go over here in the left-hand panel, you see there's a link for course email. There's a link for the discussion board. There's a link for Teams. So I have these different ways that you can contact me, and I have the discussion board here. And I try to keep things as simple as possible. But again, we got this getting started here. It's a good place to go just to read through it for questions about this stuff. Covers everything very well. This is the syllabus for the course. You're probably used to dealing with syllabus by now. It just gives you the overview of the course. The course covers the introduction of the tools and resources available to students in programming, markup language, and services on the internet. Topics include standard markup language, internet services, creating web pages, using search engines. That's outdated. We're not going to be covering using a search engine. That's like, everybody can use Google in 2021. The big thing for us to kind of note here in terms of what we're going to be using is, upon completion, students should be able to demonstrate knowledge of programming tools, deploy a website with markup tools, and create a simple database table. So those are our big things that we're going to be learning. Like, this description's from the state, and the state's a little outdated. I believe this particular description is from 2006, and they haven't updated it since like 2006. And if you went back in time to 2006, when the internet was only about 12 years old, and a lot of people were only getting on it for the first time at that point, You might want to teach people how to use a search engine. But it's 2021 now. And not only are we pretty much all accustomed to using search engines, but we don't need them to meet the goals of the course, which is that last sentence there. So it's kind of weird, right? So that last sentence there is the key part of, the big takeaway from this. We're going to be using programming tools. We're going to be writing code and programming. We're going to be building websites with markup tools, and we're going to be working with databases. That's the big thing. There's no textbook. There's no supplies that you really need. Take the time and read through all of this. Like, it's super important that you read through all this. You get an understanding of, well, how the grading kind of falls apart. What's going to be worth the most and what's going to be worth lesser. A lot of this stuff is boilerplate. It's the same thing in every single syllabus that you see. The course schedule, which we'll talk more about in just a little bit. And a lot of other just regular norms and things. Just, if you get some time within the next day or two, just kind of give this a read through. Just scan it. Make sure there's nothing crazy in it that you didn't expect. I don't think there would be, right? It's pretty standard. Just, you want to give it a little look-see just to make sure that you're on the same page. And so that's pretty good. I also try to take the most important things out of the syllabus and put it in this Begin Here module. So all that stuff, we'll kind of cover the big stuff here. So this is my contact information. Got my email here, got my phone, my office phone here, got my office location here. 3204A, that's the top floor of Paxoy. Email is the easiest way to contact me. I like to tell people that I might not always be by my office phone, but my email is typically close at hand. So that's a pretty good thing, right? I got my student hours here. If you need to see me or talk to me for any reason, I will be guaranteed to be in my office at these times to where I can talk to you. All right, and you can see today on Mondays, that's 5 to 7 p.m. And every other day of the week, it is 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., in the morning. And then on Fridays, I can do virtual meetings by appointment. It just depends. In addition to email, one of the great ways you can contact me is Teams. I actually have the Teams link here on the left-hand side. Since you are a CCC student, every CCC student has Microsoft Office 365, which is an important thing to note. So you have a Teams account. So if you want to contact me by Teams, the easiest way to do it is to just come over here and click this Teams link. And it'll take you to the Teams web interface. And you can contact me there. The last thing I was using here was my calendar to load up some different things. But you see on the side chat here on the left-hand side is going to be the easiest way. You just click that. You can put my name here at the top. And that'll find me. And you can start chatting with me that way. And we can also, find, we can audio chat, video chat. I can see your screen if you're having issues with something. And we can do that sort of thing through this interface as well, which is pretty cool. Another way that you can kind of figure out some more about Teams is by watching this video here. I talk a little bit more about it. But it's a good way to get in touch with me. And I think this might just be a good time to kind of take a little aside here, since we are talking about Office 365. On your portal page, which is the page that looks something like this. Like, I have a lot more icons than you do because I'm a faculty member, so I have a lot more things that I'm responsible for. But after you first log in to the Cleveland Community College website, you get taken to a page that looks similar to this. Some of the icons that you'll have are the Blackboard icon, the email icon, but you'll also have this Office 365 icon. And if you go and click on that, it'll take you to the Office 365 page. You can use all of the Office 365 web apps through this page. So you have this Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all these other things that you can use as web applications here on the side. Also, if you're on a computer where you can install software, like a Windows PC or a Mac, you can install Microsoft Office through this button here. It'll let you install the desktop version of the software. So you can use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Teams, whatever you want to use from the desktop version of that application. And it's completely free as long as you're a CCC student. You just log in with the same email address and password that you log into everything else with. And you get that access for free. So that's pretty cool. Let's see here. Next thing are some frequently asked questions. You can just read all of these. The one that we want to draw special attention to is this last one here. You do need some special accounts for this class. You will need a Scratch account. We will be using Scratch in Module 3. You will need a Replit account. We will be using Replit in Module 4, 5, 6, 7, in a bunch of modules. And you'll need a Cloudinary account. We'll be using Cloudinary in Module 6. And so these all have different purposes for them in the class. And we'll talk more about them when we get to them as to what they are and what they do. But it's a good time to go ahead and make your accounts for each of these now, as you're kind of working through here. That way you already have them for later, so you don't have to kind of figure that out. So that's pretty important. The pacing guide. These are your due dates for the entire semester. Your due dates for the entire semester are right here. So you can see that the Begin Here module, that's due on Sunday, the 5th. Module 1 is going to be due on the 12th. Module 2 is going to be due on the 19th. 3 is going to be due on the 26th. 4 is going to be due on October the 10th. And so these are your due dates to take note of here. These are different things to take note of as we're progressing. We can see all these here. These are your due dates. All of the assignments in that module are going to be due by these due dates. So make sure that you take care of that by those times. The live online class, that's what this is right now. Some other important course information. This is just some stuff for you all to read through. More information about submitting assignments. Again, if you've never used Blackboard before, read through that. Some stuff about doing well in online courses. Might be some good things for you to do. One of the things that I like to suggest for people to do is to take this online readiness quiz that I have listed here. And that just gives you some good ideas about what you can do to kind of help yourself out in taking online courses. And so it's an online quiz. I actually built it, so you can go through those questions there, see where you're strong at, see what you're weaker at, and see where you might need to some changes you might need to make. Some more information about the discussion boards and kind of the things that we expect, our expectations for the discussion boards. Please make sure you read through that. There's also a rubric on the discussion boards that you can kind of look through. So there is that. The final two things that we have here are the Introduce Yourself discussion board, because just like with every class, you have to introduce yourself. You don't get out of that for online classes. And finally, the orientation quiz, just kind of an acknowledgement that you've read everything in the Begin Here module. You can take this as many times as you want to get 100, but it is a grade that impacts your final grade, so you want to make sure that you do this. And that's really the Begin Here section in a nutshell. So I think we can go ahead and start wrapping up here for today. If anybody who's here with me live has any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. And remember, you can do that at any time. That's no big deal. As we're kind of going through, I am monitoring it. So if you have any questions and you're here with me live, put them in the chat. If you're watching the recording of this and you have a question, send me an email, send me a Teams message. No big deal. I will answer those questions for you. Next Monday, when we get back together again, that'll be after the Begin Here module has been due, so make sure you have everything turned in. What are the exact response requirements for the introduction discussion board? So for the introduction discussion board, it's a little different than the rest of them. I don't require replies for the introduction discussion board. So that is a good question, because I don't have that put in there. I don't require replies for the introduction discussion board. If you want to go through and just say hello to a few of your classmates, that's up to you. What I'm really looking for that one in particular is just that you put your introduction out there. It's a little different than the rest of the stuff, where kind of interaction and learner interaction is part of like the learning process. I don't really want to make people say hello when they don't want to, although responses in other threads you do have to do. Just so this introductory is a little bit different than the other ones. I don't put a response requirement on that one. But again, if you want to go through and say hello to your classmates, you're more than welcome to. Does that answer your question, Casey? Excellent. All right. Unless there are any other questions, I think that's a great place to wrap up for today. Again, if you think of any questions later. Oh, got another one. Yes, they do. There is a little bit of latency. So they do take a little bit. I see the messages immediately, but since the stream is delayed, just because that's the way streams are, it does take about 15 seconds for the response to actually get back to you. So that's why that is. But yeah, that's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're streaming. There's always a little bit of latency that kind of separates things. But yes, I always see them and I will answer them. So that is good. So unless there are any other questions, we'll give it just a minute just to see if there are any other questions, and I will hang out in the chat afterwards and answer questions in the chat if anybody has any. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here for today. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.